Okay, guys, we're going to do our Q&A, and Addie Miller, you guys know Addie. She came to one of our get-togethers. I guess it was a couple of years ago, and so she's going to join us from the. You guys know her from The Walking Dead, your favorite zombie. And where's Jeannie? Jeannie's coming. So my friend Jeannie's going to sit with us and at the Q&A. Jeannie's my all-time favorite glow girl from the 80s, especially all you guys remember watching Gorgeous Ladies of Wrestling. But she's done tons and tons of TV shows and movies too. You guys saw her on Married with Children with Al Bundy and Me, Myself, and Irene, all kinds of really cool stuff. So, any kind of questions you guys have got, doesn't matter what it is, except for politics. Anything that you guys want to talk about, if you want to know the answer to anything, whatever it is, just ask it. And our friend Dick Warlock was going to come. His wife is a little bit under the weather, so I convinced them to stay home and take care of themselves. So we're going to get started, so don't be shy.
Are you up here?
Honey, my DMC. I just got handed a microphone.
Yes.
Yeah, you're the MC.
All right.
I got one.
Well, see, I had a question for Dick Warlock.
Okay.
Can we phone it in?
Can you hear me?
Yeah.
So I probably know the answer if you have a question for Dick.
Is it that long? No.
You don't know Dick. I know Dick. Hold it. That was supposed to be funny. I'll stop talking now.
And next on Jerry Springer.
I'm done. So, Roy, why don't you start us off?
All right. First off, Hollywood, how hard was it to train? I trained. I was minor league wrestling, and I trained to be a male wrestler. How difficult was it?
For us, probably the same as you. It was hardcore. I was working. Can you hear me?
Yeah, you're good.
Can you hear me now?
Yeah.
I worked Monday, Wednesdays, and Fridays from 7 p.m. to 10 p.m. and then had a regular job during the day, 8 to 5, and then I'm learning how to forward roll, back roll. And when you haven't done that before, you come into work and your back and your shoulders are killing you. And you just do it. But see, I was 20, 21, and when you're that young, you're very fearless. So,
Well, and you're also a whole lot more limber.
yeah, and you remember a lot too.
There's a lot more cartilage at 21.
Yeah, it was tough. We were beat up. And you kind of, when you're still doing it, and as long as I've been doing it, I think you kind of learn to live with pain because it's all the time, neck and back. But you just deal with that. You'll be on a plane and I'll tell people sometimes I don't have anything wrong with me if I'm moving around like this or this. I'm just stretching because it hurts. But you gotta take care of yourself. Calcium's really important for all of us that are getting older. So take it.
Yes.
Yes. It's important to take your vitamins. It was tough.
So how did the three of us meet? You guys want to tell the story? Addie, you want to go first?
I don't
Remember?
How old was I?
You
See, we have to
were,
ask him.
I think you were probably about a year after Walking Dead, I would say.
So 11.
Wow.
Yes.
I'm 24 now to give some context there. I remember it was on set of a little spooky TV show called Ghost Trek, I
Right.
believe. It was through our mutual friends there where once again I was playing a dead little girl. There's this thing with me in Hollywood where I only get casted to be a dead little girl basically. But it was on set of that with a lot of our mutual friends, and We just kicked it off. Both Michael and my mom like are a bit of chatterboxes, as we all have learned. And they just kicked it off. And yeah, you want to give a little more context there? My 11-year-old brain, I don't think.
At the time, I think the first photo shoot that we did was in the backyard of one of my close friends. He was my roommate at the time. His name was Connor McCullough. And did you guys ever see the TV show Face Off? It's where the special effects artists face off.
The one with Nick Cage?
He made, no, that was a movie. He did it was a TV show.
Yeah.
About makeup artists.
So he did special effects and stuff like that. So he won the first season. He had the Bumblebee car. We used to go all over everywhere in that car. It was the Bumblebee Camaro, and I think Connor had done your makeup for that, for the short film. And then he told me about you, and he said, well, they're going to have a convention in town, some kind of horror movie convention, and he said, you want to go and you can hang out? And I was like, okay, cool. So I went, and it was funny because Tom Savini was there, and I know you know who Tom Savini. Tom Savini is one of the greatest special effects artists of all time. He created Jason from Friday the 13th. He did all the George Romero movies. So he's like a god of special effects. I mean, he's incredible. And I was walking by his table, and Savini started talking to me. And he was like, hey man, how you doing? I haven't seen you in a while. And in my mind, I'm like, hold on a second, what is he? And he's like, how was the show? How's the show treating you? You're on Vampire Diaries right now, right? And I was like, he thinks I'm Connor. And I was like, yeah, everything's great, man. It's really good to see you. And I was like, oh my God. So people always confused us as brothers, but that's where we did our very first photo shoot, was in the backyard of his place in Charlotte at the time. Now he's gone to Atlanta to work in Atlanta all the time.
Cool.
So
Can I ask her a question?
Yes, you can do anything you want
After you're
to.
done,
No, I'm done. I talk too much. You have to.
No, I do too. It's a curse. Some kind of a curse we have. So how long did it take to put the makeup on? And did they give you the contacts?
They did. So for The Walking Dead, because I was a child, I was 10 at the time when I filmed it, they had to do head molds and teeth molds about a month before filming, just so the makeup would fit properly. So I did a full head cast. Got my teeth molds done too. If you had braces, you know how that goes. Got braces done, and then measured my eyes for the contacts, because again, I was 10 years old, so I was really
Little.
I was very little, so the adult contacts and makeup they already had pre-made wouldn't fit on me. But with 2 makeup artists working on me the day of the show, it took 2.5 hours in the morning to get it on, and then about an hour and a half after filming to get it
Put
off.
straws in your nose.
No, thank God no.
That's always my game, is like, how do you breathe when they're...
When you're 10, you have not
no
a
fear.
worry. There's no instinct telling me, oh, this is scary. I might not be able to breathe. I was chilling. I thought it was a spa day. It was great.
How fun.
Started to fall asleep.
It was actually Greg Nicotero that did the effects, and Nicotero trained with Tom Savini. Nicotero is considered one of the greatest of all time now, because he was working with Tom even back in the George Romero days, and he still does a lot of stuff. And I think Nicotero is probably responsible for a lot of the success from that TV show, I would say.
So now is it Daryl that has his show now?
I think so. I'm kind of a bad Walking Dead fan, because when I started college,
Yeah.
I fell off.
There's like,
Yeah.
there's like 3 different ones.
There's a
Daryl's
lot.
got one, what's his name?
Negan and Maggie.
Rick, yeah, Negan and Maggie and Rick and Michonne.
Michelle.
Really?
Yeah, they all have shows.
I've only seen
I didn't know that. I just knew Daryl.
Addie's episode. That's it, and I know I need to watch.
It's the best one.
Actually, there's 2 Eddie episodes.
You came back for the 100th episode.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
I have to check that out.
My brother Jamie was also, she's a stunt woman, and she was a Walking Dead girl.
Really?
Yes, getting yelled at by the stunt coordinators. Yeah, where you're supposed to come this way. Screaming. Anyway, sorry.
Anybody else?
Don't be shy. Ask Michael how old he is or something.
Well, we know that one.
25.
Oh, like times
What's that? He knows he's gonna say
three,
something.
no two.
I know, you know, I'm a huge Kiss fan.
Yes.
I always have been. And I know you spent a lot of time with Kiss and Paul Stanley, Ace Frehley, Peter Criss, and of course my favorite at the time was Gene Simmons. I know a lot of those guys were real down to earth, but I know there was a trait about Gene Simmons that wasn't so great sometimes.
Which one?
Well, I don't guess he was the most personable person sometimes. I don't
Right.
know. Am I wrong?
You're not wrong. And the crazy thing is that Jeannie is actually good friends. She can tell you her connection
My
with Gene.
connection and my
yes.
story,
Yeah.
Yes.
which is different, probably
Very
for
different.
everyone.
Very different.
So when he had Tongue Magazine, Eric, the drummer, who I knew, said, "Hey, Gene's looking for content. Do you think that you guys could do something with wrestling?" I'm like, "Yeah." So I met him. He came over. We rented the ring. Oh, sorry, we rented the ring, and I don't like that thing. I don't like hearing my voice.
I'm sorry.
I hated it when I was 6. So yeah, I met him. Don't do that. That's better. Don't do that. So I met him, and we did a spread in his magazine called Headlock Hotties. Then later, very kind, and we were doing boxing, and he came up while we were boxing, and he was in my corner. Gotta do this, and you have to do that, and I have that on video, and I have never released it because I'm scared he's gonna go, you know, how he sues everyone or whatever. But then later on in life, my boyfriend played with Gene Simmons' solo band. And so for 2 or 3 years, and he was very kind, I would watch Gene hang out with the guys, go to the movies with the guys, stay in the same restaurant with the guys. Ace, totally different because Ryan plays with Ace right now and his solo band, and Ace is opposite. It'll be 2 minutes before they're supposed to be on stage. Here comes Ace, fixes his hair, you know, and puts on his shirt and then goes out. He doesn't really hang out like Gene. So, I mean, my stories are different than probably what Michael. And I know the other stories too, which I guess he had 2 personalities or 3 or 4. But he's always been nice to me.
The first,
And the guys.
right. The first time that I worked with him was on board the USS Intrepid battleship in New York City, and their agent or somebody had contacted me and said, well, they're gonna debut their reunion, and do you want to come to photograph everything? And I said, well, of course. So they said, well, we're gonna probably drop them out of a helicopter. We're gonna bring them in on a helicopter, and then it rained that day. Not drop them out, but bring them in on a helicopter. Yeah. And so I went, a friend of mine from a band called Trickster went with me that day, and my buddy Gary from Rainbow Rockatorium, you guys met him a couple times here, he went with us. And it was really great. Sebastian was there, Sebastian Bach from Skid Row was there, and Maria, he was still with Maria at that time. Sebastian is a big fanboy, and he had his leather jacket with the bat wings.
Oh, wow.
Underneath it, and it was really, really cool, and we actually had a really good time that day.
Till
So-
what?
No, we actually had a good time the entire day. It was cool, but I wasn't in physical contact with them that day. So I started shooting their live shows in '96 when they started playing again in '96. And so I shot several shows, and I remember the first time that I ever shot those guys. And I mean, it just about brought tears to my eyes. It was really, really incredible. I mean, it was just like comic book superheroes.
Coming to life.
Yes, standing right in front of my face, and as soon as they walk out, they don't play to the crowd. They come straight to the photographers, And man, for that to have that at that point, that was one of the greatest, 3.5 minutes of my entire life. So I didn't hang out with them off stage until probably, I guess it was a year or so later. And Tommy Thayer and Doc McGee got in touch with me. And all they told me was that they wanted me to be Peter's photographer. And this was in 2000, and it was in Charlotte. And so Thayer, now Tommy Thayer obviously is their guitar player because Ace and Peter left. Yeah, and right after those two shows. And so obviously I said yes. And I was backstage that night. My friends Scott and Mayor were there with us. And Tommy was like, okay, so here's the deal. You're just going to work for Peter. And here's the deal, you can't take a picture of anybody else. You can only photograph Peter. If he sees you taking a picture of Gene or Paul, he'll throw a drumstick at you. And at the time, I was like, well, I wouldn't want that to happen. And looking back on it, I should have done it and got the drumstick.
Right.
But I'll never forget the very second that Gene, because they didn't know it, and Gene came up to me as soon as I walked out there. And as soon as he came up to me, I went from like this, holding the camera, up to this.
Oh.
And he got really mad because he doesn't, obviously he wants
Pictures.
attention. Yes, and pictures and everything. So I went, after the show, went backstage, and then Peter's wife, Gigi, was there. And she said, well, this is going to be his last show. The following night. So I didn't know that. She said, well, he's going to trash his drum set like he did in 1975. And I was like, okay. She said, well, the band doesn't even know it. And I said, all right, well, I'll be ready. So, I was up on the drum riser with him for a little bit of the show. And then afterwards, I had gone back down to the pit right around the time that Gene does his blood.
Out of Thunder.
Yeah, where he pukes blood and all that stuff. So I'll never forget it when he did his blood stuff, and then he wiped the blood off of his face, and he threw the towel and hit me in the face with it. And I turned around and I started to cuss, and I was like, "Hold it, that's really good." I still have it to this day. I've cut some of it up and give it to my friends. But he started to smash at the very end of it. He started to smash his drum set, and I mean, he was mad. He was kicking everything off, and he was completely surrounded in smoke. And he kept looking down at me, and he was posing for me, and I was like, and I'm acting like I'm shooting, but you can't shoot through solid smoke. So I'm going, okay, I'm not getting anything right now. And this is when I was shooting film, so this was 2000, I guess. And so the very last thing that he did was he picked up the snare drum and he threw it, and it was just like slow motion. I saw it come up, way up in the air. It came down, it hit about 15 feet in front of me, and then it started bouncing, and I was thinking, that's gonna hit me. That's gonna hit me. And it did. It hit my arm, and I thought that my arm was broken. And I tried to get that snare drum out, but I couldn't sneak it out. So I was determined I was going to do it. But he was, all the years that I worked with him, I never had a problem with him except maybe one time when, and I don't remember what it was, we got into an argument about something. I think my friend Joe was there, and Joe and I had something for him to sign, and he made an issue of it. And he didn't want to do it, and I got upset, and then he got upset. So, but for the most part, I had a lot of fun with them. I miss those days because they don't let photographers, shoot anymore, really. And I remember telling Tommy Thayer after the first night, I said, look, this is before people got pictures with the band, and I said, I'd love to get a picture with them. So I said, why don't we do this? Tonight you pay me, tomorrow night you keep the money, you get a picture of me before they go on stage. So I was the very last person to get a picture with the band, and I photographed them on stage the very last time that they ever played as an original band.
Awesome.
And so that was that's always going to be like a highlight for me. It was incredible. So I try not to look at them as, I don't look at them as what type of person they are or how they act off stage or their political beliefs or whatever it is, and I try to keep all that stuff, just like with movies. I'm a huge, my favorite actor in the world is probably Robert De Niro. And, you know, I keep all that stuff separate. I just keep, this is what's special to me. This is what I like. This is what he does or Gene Simmons does or whoever it is. Regardless of what kind of person they are, this is what I take from it, and this is what I get, and this is what makes me happy, and that's how I leave it. You know, and that's pretty much it. That was a very long story. I'm sorry.
So, was he good or bad? No, I'm just kidding.
Well, one time I did, if you remember the famous picture that we took together, my most famous one, was we were in Richmond, and my friend, at the time, a friend of mine had designed a KISS NASCAR. His name was Sam Bass, and he's since passed away, but he said, well, we're going to have this KISS car, you need to come up here and take pictures. Okay, cool. So I went up there, and Gene and Paul had not gotten there yet. Gene and Paul and Tommy, because he was their road manager. And so we got there, and you know, we did our thing, and that was one of the best times that I ever had with Gene, because he was laughing and joking and talking about horror movies. He said his favorite horror movie was Rosemary's Baby. Oh. Yeah. And so we went outside, and the car was there and everything, and I remember, I'll never forget, I said, let's get a picture real quick. And he said, you want to get a picture? Well, come over here. Let's go over here. So we went over there, and I had my arm around him. He had his arm around me. I said, stick your tongue out. And he goes, no, the ground's too dirty. You stick yours out. So I said, yeah, you're just jealous. You don't want to stick yours out in front of me, buddy. So I stuck mine out, and he goes like that and grabbed my chin. And that was, to me, that was my favorite. Aside from Eddie Van Halen, that was like the next. It was like, wow. So
That was the coolest race car on the track, by the way.
was it Hardwick that did it?
Yeah,
Yeah. And Hardwick didn't even show up that day.
yeah,
He didn't even show.
yeah.
Michael, you remember the story of the roses from Peter, his mom?
Mm-hmm. That was in
That was Charlotte.
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 He always had, like, sometimes he would have someone bring blue roses because it was very special. It was a memory from his mother. And he did it in Charlotte that night. And I didn't know this until Scott told me about it. So we have a lot of very special memories. Scott was with me the first time that I learned a lesson about not being able to break a drumstick over your kneecap. So we had, if I remember correctly, we had driven to William Bryce Stadium in Columbia to photograph. I was supposed to work with Guns N' Roses and Metallica, and we got there, and this had to be the late '90s, I guess. And we got there, and the photo pass wasn't there, and the tickets weren't there.
Ooh.
And you guys know me, you know how mad I got. I mean, it was insane.
Did you get them?
5 hours of driving,
Yeah, I didn't know
and we
this.
didn't get them.
Ooh.
And Scott was like, well, Mikey, we're not going to get them. There's nothing we can do. It doesn't matter how mad we get. And I was like, and I had the drumstick, and I went, bam!
Ooh, ouch.
And it was like, oh my God. So, you can't break one of those things. I'll never forget that.
orthopedic surgeon in the
So yeah, that was, Scott was with me on a lot of really amazing,
Laughs and
and there was another one that was really, oh Lord. This one was really crazy. It was with Billy Corgan and Smashing Pumpkins. And I was supposed to shoot that at the Dean Smith Center, I believe, in Chapel
Smashing
Hill.
Pumpkins and Garbage.
Yes, Garbage and Smashing Pumpkins. And the same thing happened. The passes weren't there. And we had to turn around with our head between our legs and drive back home. That happened a lot. As a matter of fact, probably from what you see in the book, that's about 5%. the good stuff and the fun stuff. I mean, most of the stuff was really, really difficult. I mean, it was, you know, but I didn't talk a lot about the bad times, other than a few of the stories in there.
And
But
those times when there would be a photo pass and there would be just a wasted trip and everything, we try to make light of it going home, and we'd make us a little song up about, make a little song up on the way home about the what just transpired and everything. So, you know, the smashing.
yes.
He's making it like,
Do you remember? Okay, so it was Smashing Pumpkins.
yeah,
So we got out of the Smashing Pumpkins show, and there's no photo pass in there. And so I'm making up this song. Despite all this rage, there's no photo pass today. And we just laughed and laughed and laughed. And the other one was the dancing show.
Oh Lord, yeah.
The dancing show
Yeah.
at Ziggy's in Winston, and he gave him a photo pass and everything was cool and everything. Michael's up there taking photos, and he's looking over there like, who's this guy taking pictures of me? And he's like really getting mad, really getting irate. I thought he's gonna hit it or kick him or something.
He wanted to kill me, and Glenn Danzig is only like 4 foot tall, but he's like this wide.
Yeah.
And he looked at me and started running his mouth, and I looked at him, and I was like, just like that, by flipping the bird, and I looked at Scott and I said, we better leave.
We better run. And we did.
We got out of there really quick.
And then on the way home, a new song was created. It was Strider, I'll revoke your photo pass today. Put your camera up, put it away, Strider. So we did that all the time.
Yeah.
We did that in
Just
Guelph.
He made it, Scott made me,
Feel better.
yeah, he made me feel better quite a bit. It was a lot of
You know,
very
when you run
difficult
out of
times.
time, you have to make
Oh,
up something.
yeah.
Well, what about Rob Zombie?
Oh, Lord.
kicked in the
Tell him
head.
that story.
What? Who got kicked in the head?
So if you saw the book, you read that part. I had gone to Virginia Beach, to the Norva, and I was photographing a show, and his manager told me, he said, well, shoot 2 songs. So we usually shoot 3 songs. And so one of the things, if you read in the book about my high functioning autism, I can't look through, when I'm looking through my camera, I can't see anything with this one. And that means, and I also cannot hear, this is crazy, but I cannot hear the music. So I have to watch other photographers, and when they start packing up, I follow them and walk out. So I don't know, you have to leave. When it's time to leave, you gotta go or you're gonna get in a lot of trouble. So I watch everybody, and when they start packing, I pack also, and I leave, and that's it. So I went out after the second song, and I'm going out, and his manager's standing there, no, one more, it's okay, go ahead. Okay, cool. So I went back in there, and I'm shooting, and his wife is on stage. Sherry is on stage, and very beautiful and very skimpy as usual. So I'm taking photos of her and the guitar player, John Five, and then Rob comes up behind me and kicks me in the back of the head 3 times, like a football punt, knocks me straight to the floor. So I fell over. I had 2 cameras at the time, so I had to, you fall, you had to take the brunt of it, and so I had to twist and fall to protect the cameras. So I was stunned, and when I got up, the first thing I wanted to do,
It's kickback.
obviously, and as soon as I jumped up, he had ran to the back of the stage. Now, he was only about 4 foot tall, so he's a little bit taller, but so I walked outside, and I'm pretty sure I caught a whole lot of people in this audience right now. And this was in 2 weeks after he put out Halloween, his first Halloween. So it may have been 2008 or 7, something like that, 6, I don't remember. And I was thinking, I was like, okay, so what am I going to do? Am I going to have him arrested? Am I going to just drop it? And I thought about it, and I was like, well, if I say anything, I'm going to get blackballed. So I was like, okay, suck it up, it's just part of it. which was not the right thing to do. And then I was driving down the road, I probably called 20 of my friends. If I had 20 friends, I don't know if I did or not, but a lot. And like I said, a lot of those people are here tonight. And every single person that I called and told, I said, I just got the crap kicked out of me. You kicked me in the back of the head 3 times, knocked me to the floor and everything. Every single person said, man, that is so cool. Every single person. Every single person said that. It wasn't cool.
No.
It wasn't cool.
He was mad you were shooting Sherry Moon.
Yes, he probably was.
Probably, that's why.
So, ask some of the,
You know how you guys made up songs? So when we, yeah.
What you got in the works?
Oh my gosh. Well, fun life update. I got into social media because with the Hollywood industry, words are hard right now. With the industry, there was this weird lull where social media kind of took off, and some actresses weren't considered for some roles based on how many followers they had on their social media. Yep. So as a Capricorn and just a very stubborn little girl, I decided to take social media by the reins and just figure it out and start building an audience and engaging with the Walking Dead community, which has been super rewarding in the process. But with that, I found that I was a big storyteller all along. Like, I got into acting because I loved entertaining people and I loved telling stories and kind of learning these new characters and getting to experience things that I haven't before. Well, with social media, I kind of learned that you can still be a storyteller, and I didn't necessarily have to be an actor to do so. So I went to college, I really wanted an education, and I found that I could still do that. I could still connect with people online and just help out brands or other people and, you know, tell the stories of others and kind of uplift them in a way. And then I got into sports. Yay! I went to NC State for college, and as you know, it's a really big school with a big athletics program. Got involved there and started, you know, falling in love with different athletes on different teams just based on their stories, and kind of just, I didn't realize it at the time, but I was putting the pieces together and eventually got an internship with the Carolina Hurricanes to be their PR intern. Growing up in Raleigh, we love the Canes. Thanks. And I fell in love with it. I'm like, I can tell the stories of these athletes, and this is what I want to do now. So now I'm a social media manager for North Carolina FC and the NC Courage, who are the 2 professional soccer teams in Raleigh. And I've been traveling with them, sharing their stories, and now I'm dabbling in photography a bit. So it's really cool to be sitting up here with Michael right now. But yeah, it's been quite a journey. But yeah, I'm a big storyteller and content creator, and I'm just creating and telling these athletes stories, which is really cool.
That's cool.
Yeah.
I need a photography lesson.
I need a photography lesson.
By the way, I have a few very special surprises for Addie tonight. So I'll give these to you guys. Or give her these in front of everybody so you guys can check them out and hopefully like them also. Ready, Mom? Her favorite performer is
Taylor Swift.
Taylor Swift. So I brought her I've got a few limited edition prints just for her.
She's such a baby.
Yes! And my story with Taylor was, I've always told everybody, I remember the very first time that I worked with her and I met her, and she shook my hand, and it was the absolute strongest handshake and grip I have ever experienced in my entire life. It was the absolute amazing. I told her, I said, look, I have to keep this. I have to use this later, so I can't work without it. Cool.
Oh, this is
These are so pretty.
Yeah, they're beautiful.
No, these are so good. I've been needing So I live with my boyfriend, and I have, as a big Taylor Swift fan, I have a lot of Taylor Swift things. So we had to make a dedicated room in the house for all my Taylor Swift things. So I know exactly where these are going.
I can give you bigger ones if you want bigger ones.
Oh, please.
16 by 20.
All the Taylor Swift things. All the things.
I have some other, I mean, I have a ton of shots of her, so we can make that happen with some big 16 by 20s if you want some. I mean, we could actually do one probably.
I don't know if that would fit,
Any more questions, guys?
There seems to be a resurgence now with the ladies of wrestling. Can you speak to any differences between when you were
Yeah.
in front of the camera and what
When
they're
they
doing
are.
now?
I'm trying to think, when we did it, we didn't have anybody else really to look up to besides there was Wonder Woman, Isis, Batgirl. And when I go to these conventions, I always have the younger generation saying, we really looked up to you guys. So I think that Glow broke that mold. I think also too that Glow was one of the first that did the 30 women tag team or battle royale before. We were so ahead of our time and didn't even know that we were ahead of our time. The difference today is the women that are doing it, they're all great athletes. But what I think too, that the ladies today, Glow had women that were all shapes and sizes and colors. And so when you look at some of our photos, everyone had their own identity and they look different. Today when I look at WWE, I see the same look. But they're much stronger, they're more independent, and I think that they're giving them way more time than what, well, we also had a lot of time, but at least they have their time like the men do. But we did have that as well on TV, since we were the first. Like, there's so much about stuff like that that people will ask me all the time.
The
What do you
money,
think?
Obviously, I mean, at this point, it's such a big industry.
Yeah, but I think everyone still looks the same, and I love
Right
that
now,
our
it's
character.
kind of cookie cutter now. It's like they're all cut from the same mold.
Right.
There's no, if I remember correctly, there's no Matilda the Hun, there's no Mountain
Bad
Fiji,
Mama,
there's
Mountain
no
Fiji.
bad Mama,
That's what
none
I'm
of that
saying.
stuff.
Well, there's only one. Nia Jax is the last one.
Right.
And Awesome Kong retired.
Yes,
Well,
she
you know,
did. Yes.
And those were the last of
Of the big
I'm gonna
girls.
hurt you bad.
Well, you know,
Yeah.
Rebby was supposed to be with us tonight. Rebby Sky, Rebby Hardy, was supposed to be with us tonight, and something came up and she wasn't able to make it. But yeah, it's. I like the old school, and I
love old school.
Not just with you guys,
But the
not
old.
just with them, but I mean,
Back
you know,
in the day.
Ric Flair and Wahoo McDaniels and Jimmy,
And that's when
Jimmy Valiant.
I will say, you know what now, what is different? We told a story. I always see a storyline, right? In the day, story. So I always had bad blood with the farmer's daughter. I always had bad blood with the farmer's daughter for 4 seasons. I don't think that they keep their storylines the same as we did.
We are all archetypes.
Yeah.
You were the Hollywood girl, she was the girl from the farm. I mean, this was stuff we saw in the comics we read,
Yeah.
in the movies we watched. So, you know, whereas today, like you're saying, is this girl goes against this girl, and you don't know who to root for.
No.
Because you don't know which one's the heel and which
Because
one's the
they're
baby
all,
face.
they're all,
Right, I never
they're all
know.
good and bad.
And
They're-
no
yeah.
disrespect, but it was just different when we
Yeah.
were wrestling, and it was fun. And today, when I wrestle some of the newer kids, I'm like, I want to tell a story. It doesn't have to be lucha, quick, blah, 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 blah. Let us get in there and tell the story of what we're doing.
That's the biggest complaint in wrestling
Yeah.
fans today is where in the old days it was story driven, now it's spot.
That's it.
And if you don't have 15 false finishes in your match,
Yeah.
Yeah.
you're not done. And, you know, AEW is a little bit better at that, but still, it's so formulaic.
Yeah.
that it's.
Boring to me, but that's just me.
Exactly.
Yeah. I like the good old days.
Anybody else? Come on, guys, don't be. Richard, come here. Yes, Richard.
Two things. One, the meet and greet that we did with Van Halen, Gary Shrine, lead singer.
Yep.
I cannot say thank you to you enough for that. That is probably one of the highlights of things that I've ever been able to experience at a concert.
It was one of my highlights too.
Probably surpasses the first time I saw a lot of bands.
Right.
And being able to meet them was that was just nuts. And I still talk about it to people today, and
Yep.
and just like this was phenomenal. So thank you for always.
You're
Two,
very welcome.
when we first met, you were photographing a band on some train tracks. And I wanted, all these years I meant to ask you, who was the band that you were photographing back then? Who was it?
It was my band, sure.
Well, which band was it though?
That was,
It wasn't Sarah's.
no, and it was after Dimage, it was called Wishing Well.
Oh, yeah.
1997.
Yep.
And we had to be, we had to be
Yeah.
very, very quick. Because
Yeah,
that's the first day that I found out. Somebody was like, hey, you better get the hell out of here because the railroad police will get you. I'm like, what kind of joke is it? What are you talking about, the railroad police? They said, let me tell you, they're a lot worse than the
And
police.
you guys were walking back, and I was just like, you're what? They're band photographs. And he had his camera, and he's like, band photographs, and I'm like, okay, cool, not a big deal. Yeah,
So
I
it-
was not gonna,
Yeah.
to me, it was like, hey, just Norfolk Southern, get serious about it. I don't give a crap. I gotta
Yeah.
take care of
New
it.
York Times Square.
So, exactly, we have to tell our story in a second. So Richard actually was with me in 1998, and it was Van Halen. And Edward had gave me a guitar, and I had talked to Tony here about it, and Tony, I can't remember, you weren't able to go or something, I can't remember what the deal was. And he said, but my buddy Richard would love to go. I said, well, get him on the phone, we gotta go, let's go. And so we went that night, and it was backstage in Raleigh at Walnut Creek. It was supposed to happen in Charlotte, and miscommunication, it didn't happen. And so we made it happen in Charlotte. So that was very cool. I mean, I'm sorry, we made it happen in Raleigh, I'm sorry. You want to tell the story of how we met?
New York City.
Yes, it was. Do you remember?
Well, I don't remember how I know when we shot. Shut up. I know that we met in New York City. We were both going to be there at the same time. And we set up a photo shoot. And Michael had this great idea that we should go to Times Square at nighttime in front of everyone and take photos. But he wanted me in this red, white, and blue bikini. And I had this long black, and I was scared though.
I'll interrupt just for one split second. I actually wanted her to do nudes. That was, you know how things seem one way in your mind, and they're another way in reality. So that's what the original thing was, and then I was like, better back off that.
Let's get arrested.
Yeah. And so she wore her.
Red, white, and blue bikini. It's in the book.
We have the picture too tonight for her to sign too.
And what did we have, 40 seconds? He had two of his buddies there looking out for cops.
I brought two buddies that were spotters. Spotters means one's way over here, one's way over here, and they're both watching for cops or bad guys or whatever.
But we had clothes on.
Yeah, but you have to have a permit and everything.
Oh, that's right, permit,
So
that's right.
you have to have insurance, all this kind of stuff.
And we did it in 40 seconds.
We did it. We were in a cab. We had just come from Little Italy.
And I think it rained.
Yeah.
I think it did.
It did, and we had just come from Little Italy, and we had, we had experienced, and the story's in the book, but we had walked down the street in Little Italy, and I still remember guys getting slapped by their girlfriends when we were walking through, and I was like, God, you gotta be kidding me, this girl is stunningly beautiful, and just, it was like parting the sea. I mean, it was just incredible.
I think you were just envisioning that.
Oh, no, it was at least,
I think that was your
at least two guys
I do
got
not remember
slapped.
lie.
And so I was like, dude, please. So we got in a cab, and we were like, okay, we're gonna have to do this real quick. So we planned it.
Yeah.
He stopped at Times Square.
We ran
You
out.
jumped out, and I did a quick test, and then you dropped
My coat.
the coat, and bam, 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 bam. And then we got back in the car, and there was people coming from every which direction, so we jumped back in the cab, boom.
Was
took
this
off.
before the naked cowboy?
It actually, this was before the Naked Cowboy, because he came along.
You inspired him.
Yeah.
You should be getting money on that.
But he wears tight whities.
Yes, he does.
Yes. He made Ryan take a photo and say, yes.
Oh, wow.
That was done this year.
Okay, guys,
Thanks, you guys.
anything else?
Well, are you gonna, you gonna do
Say that again.
Make it one big one.
I said, are you gonna do any more handling? I know that a lot of times when we go to conventions together, you know, you did Connor, you did Sid, you know,
Not,
you would,
probably not. I've started doing these conventions. I don't have an end with Mad Monster yet, but I did Chiller, and I'm going to do Chiller
In
in
October.
October. And
Hopefully I'm
Jeannie's
gonna be
going
there.
to be doing it, and I'm going to do it. Emily will go with us again.
well, I'll talk to the guys from.
At Mad Monster?
Because I work for them too.
Yeah, because I mean, we should be able to get in probably because of our association with Sid and all the horror, Danielle,
Well,
the horror people.
All the stuff that you got will work both ways because they have, you know, they had Peter, they had Ace.
Right,
you know,
right.
So they do the rock and roll
Yeah,
too, so we should be able,
Yep.
not this one because it's already.
yeah, that would be
the one
very
in,
cool.
February.
Right. Joanne, did you have one?
I do. You know, a lot of people say that they would give their younger selves advice.
Mhm.
So with your experience and success, each one of you, what would you say to your younger self now?
You guys, Addie?
Have plan B and C. Go to school. Don't wrestle until you're my age. It hurts. And people ask me all the time, Hollywood, are you still wrestling? I say, yes. Well, how long are you going to wrestle? I go till my body tells me I can't. And right now, it feels good and I'm still doing it. So, but plan B and C and go to school. For sure.
Addie?
That's hard. I'm still my younger self.
You can't really answer that question.
I know.
Be fearless.
Go back
Go to
to like
school.
15. What would you say to your 15-year-old self?
I just wish my 15-year-old self could see me now. I mean, I went to school, I listened to my mom, I did all the right things, and just keep going. I mean, right now I think I'm still in the age where I can be still getting advice and learning as much as I can. Keep asking questions, that's the biggest thing I think. I was always scared to ask questions and scared about, being wrong and asking the wrong questions or seeming dumb, so just keep asking and stay curious. Yeah.
One more thing, you can always say no. And that's a very important thing to say. Always say no. You might think you're losing your job, but you'll always have your integrity. So if you feel it's wrong right here, it's usually right.
Yeah. But I am very lucky to be growing up, in today's day and age where there's been just a lot of pioneer women who have laid the way. So being a woman in sports now, I have I'm very confident in myself and I'm not scared to say no. And I've been quite literally fighting for my life this last week. So I'm just very fortunate the way women before me have paved the way for me.
You never stop learning. You always learn every day.
Yeah, because they say you're dead if you know everything, then you're dead. But you don't know everything. No one's perfect. No one here. We all have little things, and that's okay. That's what makes us us. No one's perfect. We talked about that.
Last night, yeah, we talked about it. Man, that's a good one. I should have been probably more aggressive with my photography and with, going after bigger gigs and stuff. I think a lot of times, I was scared that I didn't have what it took And I had to, basically what I did when I first started doing this is I was this little country boy, this simple little country boy that had, hadn't really had a girlfriend and didn't have too many friends. I was very, very shy, and I worked for Ted Nugent for a couple of years. He gave a friend of mine a photo pass, and my friend got sick, so I had to take his place. And I noticed the first time that I took it, I was like, hold it. I'm getting a lot of attention, from guys, but from
Girls.
very beautiful women, and I very, very quickly. And the more that I was in it and I was involved with it, I saw that the industry didn't really respect this Southern kid from North Carolina. So I kind of created an alter ego that was on their level, and obviously that got way out of hand. Gene Simmons once looked at me and said, "What the hell is up with your ego?" And I was like, oh my God, that's a wake-up call for sure. To hear that from Gene Simmons. Yeah. So looking back on it, if I could have done all that stuff with more confidence and less of the arrogance and, the bad things, there was, obviously in that environment, there was lots and lots of drugs and lots of, yes, beautiful women and the supermodels and all this kind of stuff, and I wouldn't have given up the supermodels, but the rest of it I probably would. Somebody was asking me the other day, it was a very good question. I was like, I've never heard that question, but that's very interesting. He said, what has it been like what was the reality of it, of the things that you've done as opposed to what people think it is? And I said, well, I remember somebody that I worked with in Los Angeles came up to me and he said, hey man, somebody told me that your girlfriend is a supermodel. And I said, yeah, she is. And he goes, man, dude, you must never have a bad day. And I was like, are you serious? And he said, good Lord, man, every day's got to be incredible. And I was like, oh my God. You are insane. Are you, so the way that people look at it and the way that people look at probably all that we do, it's not all glamorous and it's not all fun and
A lot of travel.
a lot. And as far as something like that went, the particular one that he was talking about, I loved very, very much. But people in that industry have 1,000 times more problems and baggage than most people on our level have. So it's not always glamorous. Like I said, Scott can tell you over here more than anybody, all the times that were so hard and just, for a kid in his 20s, and it would just bring me to my knees. Sometimes it was so difficult. So it's not all, you guys see the fun stuff in the book. But it hasn't been easy. It's been a lot of fun, and I wouldn't give it back. Even the assaults and stuff like that. I had a lot of fun, but I don't know. There's sometimes when I think back and I'm like, maybe I should have gone into the military. My cousin's in the military, and I'm incredibly proud of him. So maybe I thought maybe I should have done that, but you can't go back.
So, what was the one thing that brought you back to your roots that really made you stop and realize this is the person I am, and this is what I came from, and it's all three of you, and this is, I'm grateful to have come from that background.
It was, for me, it was a girl that I was dating that kind of brought me down to size. She knows who she is, and she wasn't a celebrity or anything like that. She was from here, or close to here, and I wasn't very used to women putting me in my place, or even guys, really. And she did very, 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 very quickly. Scott knows her, and that kind of helped me to kind of put my feet on the ground, I guess, in a way. Are you talking about like when I came back here from Los Angeles, or
So like just what made
just in
you
general?
thankful for where you're from, because.
Well, there's a lot of times, I can tell you right now, and I'm not ashamed of it, there was a lot of times when I forgot where I came from, intentionally forgot it. Because I put myself up with these rock stars, and let me tell you, when they were there and I walked in the room, in my mind, not in Gene's mind, but in my mind, everybody was there to see me. You know, and I literally believe this, and some people may have been, I don't know, but I mean, it was really, really bad to where at the time, you know, I had this was 15 years ago or whatever, I had gone to a therapist. I was like, I gotta tell you, I don't know. Yeah, I don't know who I'm supposed. I don't know who I am. I don't know who I'm supposed to be. You know, so.
Yeah, but what, yeah, right, so that's what I'm asking.
Yeah.
What brought you back to
That
your
girl.
roots? Not
It was
home
the-
necessarily home, but to
It
your,
was the
who
girl.
you were raised.
It was the
Yeah.
girl that did it. I think she put me in my place, and you know, I think that did it. That's what I could say.
I think it's sometimes the way you're brought up. You know, my family, I'm born and raised in California, but my parents are not. Ohio and Texas and different places, and so my background is very Midwest, and I used to get so mad, there's chores and this going on, and you gotta stay in, you can't do this, you gotta be in before the light comes in. In high school, my dad was like, you gotta be home by midnight. I was the kid that would come home at midnight, but I would sneak out the window. And that's another thing, you don't want your kids, you need a lot of communication with children. I don't have any kids, but if I did, I think I would have treated them a little bit differently. I think communication is so important, and I would have just had that with mom and dad, I probably would have been able to do a lot more. But I refuse to talk to them, so I'm sneaking out doing this and that. But at the end of the day, at this age, and I saw that later in life, that I really respected everything, and I thought they were mean, but your parents are not wrong. They love you and they want you the best for you. And so I have changed that whole, you know, I always say to kids, whatever, you know, have that communication with your folks. It's so important, even if you don't see eye to eye. You know, if a kid came up to me and said, and just told me, I'm gonna do this and this is what I wanna do. And I say, no, you're not doing it, but I'm gonna do it anyway, I'm telling you. Would you want me to tell you, then sneak out the window? That is so dangerous. I'm walking around in shorts, barefoot, running down the street to go see the boyfriend. I mean, it was horrible.
You do that now.
But, yeah, my sister did not do that. My poor sister was like freaking out. Where are you going? Go flush the toilet, make a noise so I can hop out the window. It was horrible.
She's still
I was
rebellious.
really bad.
She's still rebellious too.
But I know, I'll say, in here, you know when it's wrong. It's not lying to you.
Right. It helped me. I was raised going to Baptist church, so right up the
Catholic.
street. Most of you guys. So that helped. That helped me, and it probably saved a lot of people around me too. So anyway.
That's good. She's too young.
I know.
No,
She's an angel too.
She is.
A beautiful angel.
I
She is.
give it all to my family. I think a lot of it is just how you're raised, and the way I went into acting in the first place is my mom and her friend put me and my childhood best friend into child modeling, just for fun. Like we didn't really want like anything out of this. Like it was just for fun, and my agent at the time kept pushing me to audition for a movie, which I was 8 years old at the time, right? When you get a little bit of wind about potentially being in a movie, you're like, oh my gosh, this is my chance. Like, I'm gonna be the next Hannah Montana. Like, this is my way to like make it to the big time. So I became very annoying about it. I'm like, you have to let me audition. You have to let me do it. And the big reason they didn't want me to do it is, one, they didn't want me to get my hopes up. It would be my first ever film audition. What are the odds you book it? And two, it was on a school day. They didn't want me to miss school. But I was very annoying to the point where they finally let me go and audition. And to our surprise, I got the part. And it was to play a young Dakota Fanning in The Secret Life of Bees.
So fun.
And when you're a child in, I guess, the acting industry, there's a lot of attention on you. You can do the bare minimum and like you get a lot of appraisal and celebration, and my family saw that and was like, hell no, like we are gonna keep her humble, because when you're on set, like it is a lot of attention on you, and then a lot of actors, we see them grow up and they don't get that same appraisal anymore. You get a lot more criticism, and then we see things like what happened to Britney Spears and things like that. Like they did not want that to happen to me. So I grew up in a very humble home. Both my siblings have autism, so I grew up in a home where the attention wasn't always on me, and I was always very big sister mode and always wanting to take care of them and do the best for them and always thinking of it. But also I was growing up in middle and high school, and it's not a nice time going to normal school where, like, when girls are jealous or of you, there's a lot of bullying, and I thought there was a problem with me at the time. I didn't think it was jealousy or anything like that. So I grew up very humble, and I made it a whole rule where I will never bring up acting unless someone mentions it first to me. And I kind of still live by that rule because I want people to, get to know me. And then it's just a fun surprise later, like, oh yeah, I was in a big TV show when I was a kid. But, but yeah, I owe it all to my family. They've raised me to be very humble and down to earth, and they kept me very humble.
Well, they've done a good job.
Thank you.
One thing,
They're back there.
There's the mom and dad.
Yep.
one thing that
My brothers.
one thing that I experienced, and I did like this much compared to Addie. But when I went out there and I was like, oh, we'll try to do some stuff with TV shows or whatever the deal is, and we did Pam and Tommy, and we did a few other ones, American Horror Stories or something. And I was very surprised at the way that they treat everyone like gold. I mean, like we were kings or queens. And I mean, I had never been treated that well, and I know everybody has the way, they look at Hollywood a certain way, and that it's bad, and that wasn't my experience with it, and I'm sure that your experience was very, very good, and they treated you just amazingly, and you too, when you were doing
What
stuff.
a difference. Stunt work, all of a sudden now, you're getting your own room, and you're getting this, say, contract. I know they do, yeah. So, yeah, had I known better, I probably would have stopped the wrestling and then got in as a stunt woman, but that's a whole nother thing. It's a family-oriented type of community, I would say. Yeah.
Okay, guys,
We're good.
we have, I brought some pictures for Addie and Jeannie to sign. I've got some stuff of mine, and also we'll sign the books if you guys brought your books. So we'll sign, and then we'll move the tables out of the way, and you guys can get pictures in front of the banner with the red carpet. How's that? Cool.